can see where they're coming from. Yeah, Bella gets rescued a lot, but this is the thing. Here you have this human being who can probably lift, press 40 pounds like any of us, and she is surrounded by superheroes. Really, how do you hold your own there? But Bella does. And yeah, she can't, kung fu ninja in the alley. But is that really the measure of what makes a strong woman? Do we have to be able to... There's a lot of things that make you strong, and I think that physically that can be cool, but also Bella's really mentally strong. She knows who she is. She takes the world in and says, this is what I want. And I think that she's this really great example of what a normal, everyday girl can do with her life, and I think it's great.
I also think it's interesting because people are like, Edward does this, and so she has to react, and, she's dependent on these guys, but if you really think about it, she's kind of the one controlling both of them in a lot of ways. That's a point you brought up yesterday. That was a great point. Amber says, I know Jasper can influence people's emotions, but does that mean he could make someone fall in love with someone else?
I thought that was a really cool question. I thought about that. If he wanted to, I think he could make people feel very warmly towards each other, but as soon as he left the room, they'd be like, what was that? So, it wouldn't last.
Jen asks, Bella has had an in-depth discussion with each of the Cullens about their pre-vampire life, except for Emmett. Are we ever going to hear more?
So this is where those outtakes come into play, right? Emmett's and see, the thing about Emmett is he doesn't stress out over the past and have all these regrets and issues because he's Emmett, right? So to him, it's a very just fact story, and it's on my website, Emmett and the Bear. This is how he views life, and it's all just in the past for him. So I won't be getting into it more with Emmett's deep-seated regrets about the past because he doesn't have any. So.
How do you feel about Robert Pattinson as...
Oh my gosh, are people actually crying? I think I see tears. Okay, this is how I feel about Rob. There were a lot of people who auditioned for the role. I think it's in the thousands, actually. They looked at so many people, and it was actually getting kind of... crap, are we going to find Edward? What are we going to do? And then they said, okay, we had an audition. It was fantastic. What do you think about Rob Pattinson? And I said, and I'm like, I haven't thought about that. Give me a second. And I went and, watched Harry Potter 4, and I looked at all these pictures, and I said, you know what? He's got the whole vampire thing going on, so... that he'll do a really good version of Edward, but in my head it was always separate. He was going to be doing his version of Edward, and it was going to be great. But so then I actually saw him on the set, go from being Rob to morphing into Edward, and he looked like the way I picture Edward in my head. It freaks me out. I just have to say, he's amazing in this role, and when you see him on December 12th, what he could do. I mean, his performance is unbelievable.
Ileana asks, why do you think so many Twilight readers, I'm talking to some of you here, have such strong ill will towards Jacob Black?
Jacob fans who make me very happy, because this is the thing. I do not get that ill will. Now I think what it stems from is that people fell in love with Edward to the point where they're like, what? There are other boys in the world? Are you kidding me? These are so unnecessary. And then I think that they don't let themselves be open to what an incredible person Jacob is. Over time, people will, he doesn't sparkle, but he's warm. He has kind of, you know, read it again. Maybe someday they'll be able to see how magnificent Jacob truly is.
In the same vein, Alina says, in Eclipse, when Bella is sleeping in the tent and Jacob and Edward talk,
I've been waiting for my dreams to turn into something I could believe in, and looking for that magic rainbow on the horizon.